Life has a funny way of making you believe you found exactly what you're looking for, right when you least expect it. That's what happened to Maya Johnson, a hardworking single mom who had spent the last decade focused on raising her teenage daughter and building her small bakery business. Maya wasn't looking for love when she literally bumped into Alex Chen at her local coffee shop one rainy morning in October. Her arms were full of cake boxes for a delivery, and he caught them just before they hit the ground. Their eyes met and something clicked. He helped her load the boxes into her car, and they ended up talking for almost an hour, completely losing track of time. Alex seemed perfect in every way. He was successful, running what he said was a growing investment firm downtown. He had kind eyes, a warm smile, and always knew exactly what to say to make Maya laugh. After years of putting herself last, Maya finally felt like she deserved this happiness. Their romance blossomed quickly. Alex would surprise her with lunch deliveries at her bakery, remember tiny details about her favorite things, and most importantly, he made an effort to connect with her 15-year-old daughter, Lily. He would help Lily with her math homework, show up at her dance recitals, and even learn to bake cookies with her, though his first batch was hilariously burnt. You know, Maya's best friend, Tina, told her over coffee one day, sometimes things that seem too good to be true actually turn out to be real. You deserve this, girl. Maya wanted to believe her. After all, she had spent years being careful, putting her daughter first, and building walls around her heart. But Alex had somehow managed to break through all of them. The proposal came during a simple dinner at home. Alex had helped Lily cook Maya's favorite pasta dish, and as they sat around the kitchen table, he got down on one knee. The ring was beautiful, not too flashy, but elegant, just like Maya had once mentioned she preferred. Lily seemed excited too, hugging them both and already talking about being a bridesmaid. In the months that followed, their life seemed like a dream come true. They bought a house together in a nice neighborhood with a better school district for Lily. Alex insisted on helping with the down payment, saying they were going to be family soon anyway. Maya used some of her retirement savings too, feeling confident about their future together. But dreams have a way of showing their cracks when you look closely enough. Maybe that's why Maya didn't notice how Lily's bright smile started to fade at dinner time. How her usually chatty daughter became quiet when Alex was around. How she spent more and more time in her room, typing away at her computer instead of watching movies with them in the living room. She's just being a teenager, Alex would say, squeezing Maya's hand reassuringly. Remember how you said you were at that age? Maya would nod, pushing down the tiny voice in her head that wondered if there was more to it. After all, teenagers did go through phases, right? And Lily had always been the type to speak her mind. If something was really wrong, surely she would say something. As the wedding date grew closer, that house filled up with catalogs, sample centerpieces, and lists of guests to invite. Maya threw herself into planning, wanting everything to be perfect. This was her chance at a real family, at giving Lily a father figure who seemed to care about them both so much. But sometimes, late at night, Maya would catch Lily staring at her computer screen with an intensity that seemed odd for someone supposedly working on school projects. Once when Maya walked past her room, she heard Lily quickly closing browser tabs and shifting to her homework. But Maya brushed it off. After all, what could possibly be wrong? They were on their way to becoming the perfect family, weren't they? What Maya didn't realize was that beneath the surface of their perfect life, a storm was brewing. One that would turn their world upside down in ways she could never have imagined. Because sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones hiding the darkest secrets, and sometimes the truth comes from the most unexpected sources, even if we're not ready to hear it. It started with a broken laptop. Lily's computer had crashed right in the middle of her history project, and Alex, trying to be helpful, offered to let her use his personal laptop. "Just don't mess with my work files," he said with a laugh, ruffling her hair like he always did. Lily nodded, but something in his tone made her pause. There was an edge to it she never noticed before. The laptop was sleek and new, nothing like her old one that took forever to start up. As she worked on her project about World War II, she accidentally clicked on the wrong folder. That's when she saw it. A whole folder of different ID cards, each with Alex's photo but different names. Her heart started beating faster, but she told herself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe it was for some business thing she didn't understand. But curiosity is a powerful force, especially when something doesn't feel right. During dinner that night, Lily watched Alex more carefully. The way he smoothly changed the subject when Mom asked about his college years. How he never seemed to have any old friends or family photos to share for their wedding slideshow. Little things that had seemed unimportant before suddenly felt like pieces of a puzzle she hadn't known she was solving. "Hey Mom," Lily tried one evening, "did you ever Google Alex?" She tried to keep her voice casual while helping with the dishes. Her mom just laughed, drying a plate. "Honey, I'm not a teenager. I don't need to stalk my fiancé online." But Lily couldn't shake the feeling that maybe they should have. Late at night, when the house was quiet and she was supposed to be sleeping, Lily would sit in her room with her desk lamp on low, digging deeper into her research. She started keeping a digital diary of things that didn't add up. Like how Alex claimed to grow up in Seattle but seemed confused when Mom mentioned a famous local landmark. Or how he said he was an only child, but Lily once overheard him on the phone mentioning a sister. The breaking point came when she overheard Alex on a late-night phone call in his home office. She'd gotten up for a glass of water and heard his voice, different somehow, harder, colder. "No, listen," he was saying, "everything's set up. Once the papers are signed after the wedding, we'll move everything offshore." She has no idea. Lily stood frozen in the hallway, her bare feet cold against the wooden floor. Who was he talking about? What papers? Her grades started slipping. Her dance teacher asked if everything was okay at home. Even her best friend Zoe noticed something was wrong. "You're like a different person lately," Zoe said during lunch break. "Is it about the wedding?" Lily just shrugged, pushing her food around on her plate. How could she explain what she was discovering when she wasn't even sure what it all meant? The real breakthrough came when she found a website about investment fraud. There was a whole section about wedding scams, about con artists who targeted single moms, about how they built trust and then disappeared with everything. Her hands shook as she read through case after case, seeing patterns that matched their situation perfectly. One night, Mom came into her room and sat on the edge of her bed. "Sweetie, you've been so quiet lately. Are you worried about the changes? About Alex becoming part of our family?" Lily looked at her mom's hopeful face, saw the happiness in her eyes, and couldn't bring herself to say anything. Not yet, not without proof. She started taking screenshots, saving web pages, and printing documents. She created a special email account to contact people who might have information. Each response she got made her feel sicker. A detective in California who remembered a similar case. A woman from Florida who lost everything to someone who looked just like Alex but used a different name. The stress started showing in physical ways. She couldn't sleep. Her appetite disappeared. Dark circles appeared under her eyes, and she caught Mom looking at her worriedly more than once. Alex, too, seemed to be watching her more carefully, as if he sensed she was onto something. 3 weeks before the wedding, Lily found the smoking gun. A news article from 5 years ago, with a photo of Alex under a different name, wanted for questioning in connection with a series of investment frauds targeting wealthy widows. The article mentioned his pattern: charming, attentive, always knowing exactly what to say and do to win trust. Every night she would lie awake, the weight of what she knew pressing down on her chest like a heavy stone. She watched her mom happily planning the wedding, picking out flowers, tasting cakes, and felt like she was watching a car heading for a cliff in slow motion. But she knew she couldn't just blurt it out. Mom was so happy, so in love. She needed concrete proof, something so solid that not even Alex's smooth talking could explain it away. As the wedding drew closer, Lily felt like she was living in 2 different worlds. In one, she was helping with wedding preparations, smiling in dress fittings, and pretending everything was fine. In the other, she was frantically gathering evidence, building a case that would shatter her mother's happiness but potentially save her from something much worse. The truth hit Lily like a tidal wave one quiet Sunday afternoon. She was cross-referencing newspaper archives when she found it, a wedding announcement from 6 years ago. There was Alex, looking slightly younger but wearing that same charming smile, standing next to a woman named Patricia Reynolds. The article described him as Michael Anderson, a successful investment banker. Her hands trembled as she dug deeper. Michael Anderson had disappeared 3 months after that wedding, along with nearly $500,000 from Patricia's retirement account. The police reports painted a heartbreaking picture. Patricia had been a successful business owner, smart and independent, just like Mom. She never saw it coming. But that wasn't all. An hour later, Lily found another article, this time from 8 years ago. Same face, different name, Robert Turner. Another wedding, another woman named Beth Cooper. Same pattern. He gained their trust, married them, then vanished with their money. Each time, he picked successful single women with substantial savings or profitable businesses. "Honey, what are you working on?" Mom's voice made Lily jump. She quickly switched screens to her math homework. "Just studying for finals," she managed to say, her heart racing. Mom smiled, proud and unsuspecting. "Don't work too hard. We've got cake tasting tomorrow, remember?" That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about all the other women, wondering if they had children too. Did anyone try to warn them? Did they have someone looking out for them like she was trying to look out for Mom? The weight of responsibility felt overwhelming. The next morning, while Mom and Alex were at work, Lily skipped school for the first time in her life. She had to know more. Using the library's computer to be safe, she found a pattern that made her blood run cold. Every 2 years, like clockwork. A new name, a new city, a new victim. Sometimes he was David Wilson, sometimes Christopher Hayes, sometimes William Parker. But it was always him, always the same scheme. She started contacting his previous victims. Most emails went unanswered. Maybe they were too hurt to respond, or maybe they changed their addresses to escape the memories. But one woman wrote back. Her name was Rose, and she had lost everything 5 years ago to the man she knew as Thomas Grant. "I should have seen the signs," Rose wrote. "He always had an excuse for why we couldn't meet his family. His documents were always being processed or in transit. He was so good at making me feel special that I ignored the red flags. By the time I realized the truth, he was gone, along with my life savings and my daughter's college fund." Lily printed Rose's email, along with every article, police report, and wedding announcement she could find. She organized them chronologically in a folder, each piece of evidence carefully labeled. The pattern was undeniable. Alex Chen was actually Andrew Thompson, was actually Michael Anderson, was actually Robert Turner. The list went on and on. But the most chilling discovery came when she dug into his current identity. Alex Chen's background was paper thin. His investment firm's website had only been created 8 months ago. The office address he claimed to work at was actually a virtual office space. Everything about him was as real as a movie set, convincing from the outside, but nothing behind the facade. One evening, while helping Mom with wedding preparations, Lily watched Alex charm their wedding planner with stories about his time volunteering in South America. She had found proof that during those exact months, he was actually in Minnesota, scamming another woman out of her inheritance. The ease with which he lied made her feel sick. The hardest part was watching Mom transfer money into their joint account for the house down payment. Each time, Alex would kiss her cheek and tell her how excited he was about their future together. Lily would grip her pencil so hard it nearly snapped, knowing that the money would probably disappear long before any house was bought. She tried dropping subtle hints. "Mom, don't you think it's weird that Alex never gets calls from his family? Or, have you noticed how he never lets anyone take pictures of him?" But Mom was too happy to notice, too in love to see what was right in front of her. And Alex was too skilled at having an answer for everything. Time was running out. The wedding was getting closer, and with each passing day, more money moved from Mom's accounts into ones they shared with Alex. Lily watched their savings disappearing, knowing that soon there would be nothing left to save. The final piece of evidence came from an unexpected source. A retired detective who had investigated one of Alex's earlier scams reached out after seeing Lily's inquiries. He sent her police files that had never made it to the news, stories of other victims, other lives destroyed. The photos in those files showed the same man, wearing different names like masks, leaving a trail of broken hearts and empty bank accounts across the country. As she stared at her growing folder of evidence, Lily realized she was the only thing standing between her mom and complete financial ruin. But knowing the truth and figuring out how to reveal it were two very different challenges. How do you tell someone that the person they trust most in the world is actually their worst nightmare? 2 weeks before the wedding, Lily sat on her bed surrounded by evidence of Alex's crimes, feeling like she was drowning in secrets. Her mom was downstairs, humming while arranging flowers for the centerpiece trial run. The sound of her happiness made Lily's heart ache. How do you tell someone that their perfect dream is actually a nightmare? That morning, she had watched her mom transfer another large sum into the joint account for wedding expenses. "It's worth it," Mom had said, smiling as she clicked the transfer button. "Sometimes you have to take risks for love, right?" Lily had gripped her orange juice so hard she thought the glass might shatter. Her best friend Zoe was the only person who knew anything was wrong. During lunch break, sitting under their usual tree, Lily finally broke down. "I know something terrible," she whispered, "something that could destroy Mom's happiness. But if I don't tell her, she'll lose everything." Zoe listened, wide-eyed, as Lily shared some of what she'd discovered. "You have to tell her," Zoe said firmly. "It'll hurt, but not as much as losing everything will." But giving advice was easier than living with the consequences. Every night, Lily would rehearse different ways of telling her mom the truth. Sometimes she'd write it down, crumple the paper, start over. She tried imagining how the conversation would go. "Mom, remember how you always taught me that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is." But the words felt hollow, inadequate. The wedding preparations continued like a runaway train. Relatives were booking flights, the venue was paid for, and Mom's beautiful wedding dress hung in her closet like a white flag of surrender. Alex was around more often now, helping with final arrangements, always playing the perfect fiancé. "You seem stressed, kiddo," he said one evening, catching Lily alone in the kitchen. His tone was light, but something in his eyes made her shiver. "Wedding planning getting to you?" She managed a weak smile, wondering if he suspected what she knew. That night, she password-protected all her files and backed everything up to a secure cloud drive. The breaking point came when Mom started talking about selling her beloved bakery. "Alex thinks we should combine our investments," she explained excitedly over breakfast. "He knows this amazing opportunity that could double our money in 6 months." Lily's toast turned to ash in her mouth. She had read about this exact scheme in his previous cons. She tried one last desperate attempt at subtlety. "Mom, maybe we should do a background check. Just as a formality. My friend's parents did it before their wedding." But Mom just laughed. "Oh honey, that's for people who don't know each other. Alex and I have been together for 2 years. I trust him completely." Those words, "I trust him completely," echoed in Lily's head as she read through Rose's detailed account of how she lost her life savings. Rose had trusted him completely too. They all had. That's what made him so dangerous. The guilt of staying silent was starting to affect every aspect of Lily's life. Her dance teacher noticed she was missing steps in routines she'd known by heart. Her grades slipped from As to CS. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus on anything except the ticking clock counting down to the wedding. One night, she overheard Alex on the phone again, speaking in that cold voice she'd come to recognize as his real one. "Everything's lined up," he was saying. "The accounts are ready for transfer right after the ceremony." Lily recorded the conversation on her phone, her hands shaking but steady enough to capture his words. The final straw came 3 days before the wedding. Mom was at the bakery, and Lily saw Alex in his home office, scanning Mom's personal documents, her birth certificate, social security card, bank statements. She watched through the crack in the door as he photographed each one, sending them somewhere on his phone. That night, Lily made her decision. She organized all her evidence into a clear, undeniable presentation. Photos, bank records, police reports, victim statements, everything that proved Alex was a professional con man. She put it all in a sturdy blue folder, the kind Mom used for important bakery documents. As she sat there, looking at the folder that would shatter her mother's world, Lily remembered all the little moments of happiness from the past 2 years. Movie nights with the 3 of them on the couch. Alex teaching her to drive in empty parking lots. Mom's face when he proposed. For a moment, her resolve wavered. Would ignorance be kinder than truth? The wedding day arrived with perfect weather and terrible timing. Lily stood in front of her mirror, wearing her pale blue bridesmaid dress, the blue folder hidden in her dance bag. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking as she tried to fix her hair. Down the hall, she could hear her mom getting ready, surrounded by aunts and friends who were helping with her dress and makeup. The church looked like something from a fairy tale. White flowers everywhere, soft music playing, guests filing in wearing their best clothes. Lily watched from a side room as Alex greeted people, playing his role perfectly. He looked handsome in his tuxedo, shaking hands and laughing with the guests. No one would ever guess he was planning to destroy her mom's life. "You look so serious," her mom said, coming up behind her. She looked beautiful in her wedding dress, like a princess in one of the stories she used to read to Lily when she was little. "Is everything okay, sweetie?" Lily forced a smile, hugging her mom carefully to avoid wrinkling the dress. "Everything's fine," she lied, probably for the last time. The ceremony began exactly as planned. The flower girls scattered rose petals. The bridesmaids walked down the aisle. Lily's turn came, and each step felt like walking through deep water. Her dance bag, with the folder inside, was hidden behind her seat in the front row. The music changed to the wedding march. Everyone stood. Her mom appeared at the back of the church, glowing with happiness. Lily felt tears running down her face, not tears of joy like everyone probably thought, but tears of fear and determination. The priest began speaking. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." Lily's heart was pounding so hard she could barely hear the words. She looked at her mom's face, so full of love and trust. She looked at Alex, wearing his perfect mask of sincerity. She thought about Rose, about Patricia, about all the other women whose lives he had destroyed. If anyone knows any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. The traditional words rang through the church. This was it. This was her moment. Lily stood up, her legs shaking but her voice clear. "I have a reason." The words echoed in the sudden silence. 200 people gasped in unison. Her mom turned, face shocked. Alex's smile froze. "Lily, what are you doing?" Her mom whispered, but Lily was already reaching for her bag. Her hands were steady now as she pulled out the blood folder. All those nights of worry, all those days of investigation had led to this moment. "The man you're about to marry isn't Alex Chen," she said, her voice carrying through the stunned church. "His real name, well, he has many names. Michael Anderson, Robert Turner, Thomas Grant." She opened the folder, pulling out the wedding photos from his previous cons. "This is him 6 years ago, marrying Patricia Reynolds. This is him 8 years ago, marrying Beth Cooper." The church erupted in murmurs. Alex took a step forward, his charming smile still in place. "Lily, sweetheart, what are you talking about?" "Those must be photos of someone who looks like me." But Lily wasn't finished. She pulled out the police reports, the newspaper articles, the victim statements. Her voice grew stronger with each piece of evidence. "He's a con artist. He marries successful women, gains access to their accounts, and disappears with everything they have. He's done it at least 5 times before." She turned to face the guests. "Mrs. Thompson from my mom's book club, you're a retired detective, right? Would you please look at these police reports?" She handed the documents to the shocked woman in the third row. "And Mr. Rivera, you're a banking expert. Could you please look at these transaction records?" Her mom stood frozen at the altar, color draining from her face. "Alex," she whispered, "is this true?" But Alex's face was changing, the charming mask cracking. His eyes darted toward the side door, calculating. "Mom," Lily said, her voice softer now, "I know you love him. I know you wanted this to be real. But please, look at the evidence. Look at what he did to these other women. Look at what he's already doing with your accounts." She pulled out the final piece of evidence, screenshots from her mom's banking app, showing large transfers to offshore accounts over the past week. Accounts that Alex had convinced her mom to open for their future together. The church was dead silent now, every person frozen in place, watching this scene unfold. Lily's heart was breaking for her mom, whose perfect day was turning into a nightmare. But she knew that this pain was better than the devastation that would have come later. "I have one more thing," Lily said, her voice echoing in the silence. She pulled out her phone, pressed play, and Alex's cold voice filled the church. "Everything's lined up. The accounts are ready for transfer right after the ceremony. She has no idea." It was like watching a statue crack. Alex's perfect facade shattered completely. For one terrible moment, his face showed his true self, cold, calculating, furious. Then he turned and ran toward the side door. Chaos erupted in the church as Alex bolted for the side door. He moved with the speed and precision of someone who had practiced escape routes before, shoving past the flower arrangements and knocking over a decorative stand. In his hand was Mom's small satin purse, the one containing all the wedding gift checks and her grandmother's antique jewelry. "Stop him," someone shouted. Uncle Pete, a former high school football coach, was the first to react. He lunged forward, trying to block the exit, but Alex was too quick. He dodged, his perfectly polished wedding shoes squeaking against the marble floor. Lily's hands were shaking as she pulled out her phone. She prepared for this, researched what to do. Her fingers found 911 even as her mind raced. Behind her, she could hear her mom's soft sobs, could hear Aunt Jenny trying to comfort her. 911, what's your emergency? "There's a con man at St. Michael's Church on Oak Street," Lily said, her voice steadier than she felt. "He's trying to escape with stolen property. He has a history of fraud across multiple states." The wedding photographer, Mr. Chen, no relation to Alex's fake name, turned out to be a retired police officer. He moved with surprising speed for someone his age, positioning himself near the main entrance. "He'll head for the parking lot," he called out. "That's where his getaway car will be." Alex changed direction, heading for the main doors instead. He was still clutching Mom's purse, but now he had also grabbed the envelope from the gift table. Two of Mom's cousins tried to block his path. In the struggle, he pushed past them roughly, sending one stumbling into a pew. "The back door," Mr. Chen shouted. "Cut him off through the reception hall." Several younger guests rushed to follow his instructions, their dress shoes and high heels clicking against the floor as they ran. Lily stayed with her mom, who had sunk into the front pew, still in her beautiful white dress. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she whispered, holding her hand. "I'm so sorry it had to happen like this." Her mom squeezed her hand back. "No, baby. I'm sorry I didn't listen when you tried to warn me." They could hear the commotion outside, shouts and running feet on the church steps. Mr. Chen's strategy worked. Alex found himself trapped between the reception hall doors and the main entrance. He spun around, looking for another escape route, his charming facade completely gone. His face was twisted with anger and desperation, the true face he had hidden for so long. "Just give up," Mr. Chen said calmly, moving closer. "The police are on their way." But Alex wasn't done. He grabbed a tall brass candlestick from the nearest pew, wielding it like a weapon. Several people gasped and stepped back. That's when Grandpa Tom, Mom's father, tried to be a hero. Despite his bad hip and his 70 years, he stepped forward. "Young man," he said in his firm teacher's voice, "put that down and show some dignity." Alex's response was to shove past him roughly. Grandpa Tom lost his balance, falling hard against the wooden pew. The sound of his head hitting the wood made everyone gasp. Aunt Jenny screamed. "Officer down on Oak Street, suspect fleeing on foot," Lily heard through her phone. She hadn't even realized she was still connected to 911. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The next few minutes were a blur of action. Mr. Chen and Uncle Pete managed to grab Alex just as he reached the church steps. The gift envelope went flying, checks and cards scattering like confetti in the wind. Several guests rushed to collect them while others helped hold Alex down. Mom's purse had fallen during the struggle, spilling her grandmother's jewelry across the steps. Lily found the old pearl necklace, the one that was supposed to be her something old, half hidden under a fallen flower arrangement. She clutched it tightly, feeling the smooth pearls against her palm. The police arrived with flashing lights and blaring sirens, an absurd addition to what should have been quiet wedding music. Two officers handcuffed Alex while another checked on Grandpa Tom, who was sitting up but looking dazed. "Don't you understand?" Alex was shouting as they led him away. "She would have thanked me later. I could have made her rich." His voice had changed completely, no more smooth charm, just raw anger and desperation. Paramedics arrived to check on Grandpa Tom and anyone else who had been hurt in the scuffle. The church that had been decorated for a wedding now looked like the scene of a storm. Flowers knocked over, candles toppled, programs scattered across the floor. Lily sat with her mom on the church steps, both of them watching the police car drive away. The beautiful wedding dress was smudged with dirt now, and Mom's carefully done makeup was streaked with tears. But when she turned to Lily, there was strength in her eyes. "You saved me," she said softly, touching Lily's cheek. "My brave, smart girl. You saved all of us." Around them, family members and friends were gathering close, forming a protective circle of love and support. The wedding was ruined, but something more important had been saved: their future, their trust, their family.